Welcome to 5 Stripe Weekly, everyone. This week, this happened.
Atlanta United, in just their second year of existence, have won MLS Cup.
Welcome to the show, 5 Stripe fam. I'm AJ, this is Tanner McLeod. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube or hop over from Facebook and subscribe. Yes, guys, welcome to a very special MLS Cup winning 5 Stripe Weekly. Oh boy, we are absolutely over the moon. And yeah, I mean, it's something that Atlanta and us have all been waiting for a very, very long time. But, I mean, let's just get right into the match where, I mean, we had an unchanged 11, and this unchanged 11 has been a rock throughout the playoffs. Escobar as a wingback, Garza as the left wingback, just the whole team just doing bits. And, I mean, this match was a dream. I really did not know if it was real the morning after on Sunday. I mean, I am just, I'm in a dreamlike state.
I mean, even now, Monday, after the parade, after everything, it's still just hard to just understand, believe that, yes, Atlanta United are MLS Cup champions. We've won the league. We're the best there is. End of year 2. Perfect ending for all the players that have come so far. Perfect ending for Gerardo Tata Martino.
Indeed.
He has finally got that cup win, that league win that he has been craving for a very long time. And boy, did they absolutely deserve it. Like you said, starting off with the 11, unchanged. You cannot blame him for sticking with that. They have done the business all postseason. He's found the exact blend that Atlanta United needed to win. Maybe it wasn't our best, beautiful attacking play, but that was the most efficient Atlanta United has ever played in this postseason. They've done the job on 2 very, very good teams in the New York teams, and then they took really what I think during the moment we were very nervous, but when you go back and watch that match and step back and appreciate it for what it was, they absolutely took apart a Portland Timbers side that looked like they didn't really even belong on that stage. And maybe that's some harsh criticism, but Atlanta United, a few chances aside, really the one Guzan save aside, did not look at trouble at any point in time in this match. And as things wore on, it just looked more and more confident. But obviously, at the moment, all of us were nervous. Everyone, especially when it's 80th minute, 2-0, people were turning and going, well, this is our 28-3 if there ever was one. But that moment when we kind of got into stoppage time and everyone kind of realized,
it's happening.
It's happening. They're not going to catch us. It's happening. And man, just...
Yeah, and you could see Joseph Martinez and Miggy on the bench. They were anticipating.
They knew it.
They were all going to run onto the pitch immediately when the whistle blew. I mean, that was a very, very long stoppage time. I mean,
It just went on. It just went on. And you were just like waiting for it. You could see it on all the players. They knew it. Parkey just hoofs it. Yeah. But we really, before we can all really dive into all the celebrations, we have to break down the individual moments of this match. And there were some really interesting points throughout this match.
Because it was a fun final.
It was a good final. And honestly, clean sheet as well. Who would have expected that?
Exactly.
But to really get into it, obviously, you have to really start off with Joseph Martinez. I mean, he has been doing the business throughout the entire season, scoring all of the important goals. And of course, wouldn't you know it, it would be him that would open the scoring for Atlanta United.
Absolutely. And, it's the captain putting in a just remarkable shift and really just charging into midfield. And really, I mean, he just dispossessed the defender. And, the ball kind of ricocheted perfectly as almost a through ball to Joseph Martinez, where he rounds Attinella and just does what he does, the very best of MLS, for the 35th time this season, and just puts it aplomb. And
it's incredible.
It's what Joseph does.
It's exactly what he does. And I think something that maybe we take for granted, because you think of what he did and how it's routine. It's not easy. He kept his composure. He rounded the keeper, and it's not something that you can't even you can't see it in real time. He takes a stutter step, sets himself, and finishes from what is actually a tight angle. Calm, composed, collected. Everything the man represents, just like his celebration. And I mean, just like he did. take it,
Yep.
drop it. It was just the epitome of what that player is, from his positioning, getting lost by defenders, making keepers look silly, and scoring game-winning goals.
He smoked the keeper. I mean,
Absolutely.
It was,
and he deserved it, because earlier in the half, as Atlanta were really starting to grind down Portland and really starting to open them up and create these opportunities, he had a shout for a penalty that I think a lot of us felt that he deserved. It was a bit divisive. It was one of those calls that, of which there are multiple in this game, that had people going, okay, maybe that could have gone one way or the other. I think it's a very difficult call. It's the final.
It's the very first goal it would be. That's very difficult to
I think it was really, really close. And honestly, at the time, I really felt it was a penalty. Part of me wants it to be a penalty, but if I'm really being perfectly pragmatic, I don't think it was a clear and obvious error on the referee's part to not allow it, which is why the VAR didn't overturn it. I think it was just one of those really close calls, and I can understand a referee
not
wanting to give it. And not to mention, think about the precedent that would be setting for MLS Cup, where that first goal is coming from a VAR penalty. I mean, it would have been contentious. And Joseph looked frustrated after that, but in the end, he did get that last laugh and got it landed on the score sheet and gave them that vital 1-0 lead going into halftime.
And even before that, I mean, this is how entertaining the game was that Miguel Miron had a scissor kick that nearly...
just one of those that we forget about.
Yeah, and Attinella with a very, very good save. I mean, props to him for saving it, but it was on frame, and
I just remember when the cross comes in, and I'm seeing Miggy looking at it, and you're thinking kind of like, is he about to? And then he does it, and you see him just flying through the air, and I mean, the contact, he did scuff it, but it's, at the end of the day, really good technique to bounce it into the ground. It was going into that corner. He made the keeper make a save. If that goal had gone in, I probably would have absolutely lost my mind. I mean, I did anyway when Joseph's goal went in, but if that had been the opening goal from that player,
he would have added 10 million to his
just right there. It's just like, did you see the goal he scored in the final with the bike? But I mean, Miggy, to speak on his performance in this game, without scoring or assisting, it was one of his best games that he played, and really he had an assist in the fact that he put the ball in to Joseph for the second goal.
It's the hockey assist.
It's the hockey assist, but he was on it this game. He a couple times, just his dribbling and his technique to send players one way and cut it back the other, riding some of the tackles, drawing in players for fouls, finally getting Chara booked, which it felt like was due for ages. I mean, he had an incredible shift in what could potentially be his last game for the club. I thought he played incredibly well and did himself justice and really gave us something to look back and smile upon for a final performance, and did a lot and did everything that he was brought in to do. And I think that's one thing we have to talk about this game as a whole, is that every player on that pitch at some point in time did exactly what they were brought to Atlanta United to do. And I think one very clear example of that is Brad Guzan making that save right before halftime.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, if they had tied it up, that would have been a very interesting second half.
Gut punch.
For sure. And and you really do not want to concede right before halftime. But I mean, Blanco just doing what he does and able to put sand up a ball.
A few times in that game, to be fair. I mean, he did create a lot.
He was neutralized for the most part. But I remember seeing their XG, if you getting a little nerdy, it was a little higher than our XG actually, which is interesting. But it was probably because that chance was probably as good of a chance as any. Like, I don't think Guzan really had any right to save it, and he absolutely just had it covered. And he was nimble as ever, as he always has been for LA United. And I mean, he's he's nicknamed the Wall for a reason, and yes, he's been maligned at other places, but for Atlanta United, he has been money.
He's absolutely been money. I think one thing you really have to give him credit for, and when you look at the stats, he's a middle of the pack keeper in MLS when it comes to saves, because a lot of the time he doesn't have a lot to do, and that's a very important and difficult thing for a goalkeeper to do. Is when you don't have a lot to do, to keep that concentration up. Portland had done nothing in the first half except for maybe kick a few balls that landed in his penalty area for him to collect. There was not much that he had to do, and then right after your team scores, they get a play just kind of ball bounces their way, and you have to be on your toes to keep your team in it and make that vital save. And from then on, Portland had a few scuffed shots here and there, but nothing absolutely as clear-cut as that. A header right at the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
You expect to score that goal, which is why, like you said, their XG is there, is because of that chance. And Brad Guzan was brought to Atlanta to make big-time saves in big-time games, and that is exactly what he did.
Yeah, and, just getting on more about how this team was just, they showed up for this final. Your much maligned Franco Escobar, there was a recovery chance where he had gone all the way to the box, and he was caught out
all the way back,
and beats the guy for the ball and gets it out. It's just he is one of the fastest guys on the team. Probably not with the ball, but yeah, definitely in a dead sprint. Dude.
I mean, he has been absolutely incredible this postseason, and he was much maligned. And to be fair, deservedly maligned. There were questions about his game during the regular season. But once he got to the postseason, he just found something.
Yeah.
Something happened, just like the rest of the team. He found something and became this just absolute force on the right-hand side. The reason Atlanta United brought him here, the potential, the player they saw, he became that. And that allowed other players to play in a formation that honestly none of us thought would work. I mean, Jeff Larentowicz was an absolute unit in this game.
Absolutely.
For his age, to come out and do what he did, winning every header he was pretty much asked to win, winning every tackle he was asked to make. I mean, even in the second half, there was that one breakaway that he got called for a foul on. I went back and watched the game. He won the ball. It wasn't even a foul, and he was in the position that all of us were concerned about. In space, can he make the tackle?
Right.
Perfect tackle. Obviously gets called a foul. Incredible performance from him, but he was allowed to be that player because of the help he got from Franco Escobar.
Right.
And not only did he contribute defensively, he pops up and scores that insurance goal that we so desperately needed to take control of that match.
Yeah, Franco Escobar, he's just popping up always in the right places, especially in the playoffs. And I mean, yeah, it starts off, especially with this goal that Joseph Martinez wins this free kick. I mean, this is divisive.
This is definitely that sticking point that you would hear Portland Timbers coach Giovanni Savarese having a problem with throughout the post game.
Yeah.
That he probably still holds on to. In my opinion, not really what decided the game, but I thought it was a foul.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the death knell in the game for them because there's just no coming back for them, especially after this goal. But, I mean, it's, if we break it down, it looks like, that the defender wins the ball, but they especially just really clatter into Joseph Martinez. And, I mean, when I first saw it, I thought he got kneed in the back, but further replay, it's not quite that, but there still is he's covering him. He's like legs all around his ribs. It's pretty dangerous, I think.
I think what's interesting about it is for many people, the reason it's so divisive is I think it's how the game's kind of evolving. It's, well, he won the ball, so he has a right to clean him out. Right. I think in this particular situation, it's he wins the ball, but it's how he wins the ball. It's dangerous play. His foot's in his chest, and he goes around him and clatters him. It's dangerous play. He gets there, but is it a safe way of getting there? And I think it's one of those ways with how the game is evolving, with how referees call fouls now. In my opinion, I think it was a dangerous play. Yeah. But I think the most important thing is you have calls like that all the time in games. What matters is when they're going against you, how you respond. And I think something, to really start, like you said, breaking in down this goal is how Atlanta had approached it. They had done the fake with Miggy, cross with Gressel, and then with this one,
fake with Gressel,
cross with Miggy.
Yeah, and it's something that Atlanta United have been really, really clinical with in set pieces in the playoffs. It's just
who knew?
Yeah, I mean, it's a team that really didn't score very many goals from set pieces or corners or any of those during the regular season, and all of a sudden we're this kind of almost smash and grab a little bit, but it's just a beautiful ball from Miggy, and Joseph knows exactly what to do with it. He just pretty much heads it backwards to the back post, and Escobar is in the perfect spot to just clinically put it in.
I think what's really interesting when you talk about how Atlanta have been so clinical off set pieces all of a sudden, what's interesting is that was Portland's bread and butter for how they beat teams. They were good on attacking set pieces. Yeah. That's how they scored their goal against Atlanta United earlier this season.
And then we're doing that.
But on this particular set piece, especially having faked it the other way earlier, when you see Gressel step to the ball, the Portland back line drops. And they can't get things back on side and back reorganized before Miggy hits the ball. So by the time Miggy hits the ball, somehow the one person on Atlanta United you absolutely have to mark in the box,
especially for headers,
goes unmarked and free. And then the credit to Joseph Martinez, you're a goal scorer. For many goal scorers, they have a free header. They're going to try to put it on target and take that goal for themselves. But he unselfishly flicks it to the back post, or Escobar, like you said, finds himself unmarked. Bad marking on Portland's part. Get that better, not the referee's fault. And he just goes right in and scores that goal. And I mean, at that point for me, I think that was really where the game almost ended in a sense, because Portland hadn't really created much from there. But after that point, Atlanta United, in my opinion, always looked like the next team to score. It looked like when Atlanta United want to cut through Portland and create a chance, they did create those opportunities. There were multiple times where the chance for the break and to get that third was on, but they decided, no, we don't have to. We can control the game. And a lot of the time, you saw that call being made by Darlington Nagbe, who just turned and looked and said, you know what? We've got the ball. I've got the ball. You can't get it off of us. Forward, He would turn, pass, and then the ball would circulate, and we would absolutely just pass Portland to death until we decided, do we want to make a chance? Or we made a mistake, lost the ball, and then won it back again. And it just didn't look like Portland at any point in time, even as they made their changes, we're going to get back into that game.
Right. And I think it's a major part of that is Eric Rometty, who, I mean, you didn't really hear much from Diego Valeri at all in this match. And, you know, Rometty, Nagbe, and Gressel are the reason why for sure. But I think Rometty, to single him out for sure, he did what he was brought here to do, was to shut down playmakers on teams. And, you know, I mean, he's done that all playoffs, and especially in this match. On Valeri, it's just, he was anonymous. I mean,
but it's like you said, it's been that way all playoffs.
Former MVP.
Kaku, who heard of him? You know, Maxi, what was it?
Maxi Morales.
Morales, who heard of him? Where was he? I mean, he absolutely took these fantastic players and made them non-starters. Nothing happened. And I think, you know, it was a really interesting comment that I was having with the gentleman in front of me at the game, who, funny enough, said that they watched the show. Thank you for watching, guys. But they made a great point about how you really have to be there in person to appreciate Eric Rometty, because he's not the player that you really can appreciate when you watch it on TV, because you don't see all the little things that he does. From taking up defensive positions when players like LGP move forward, to marking those guys out of the game, to making those tackles, and then his passing to be able to move the ball around and switch possession. I mean, he's not a flash player. He's almost like our version of N'Golo Kante in a sense, where he runs around, breaks up play, wins the ball, and it's not the most flashy thing, but it is incredibly crucial and important. And I think coming into this season, losing Carlos Carmona, you go, well, who steps in and how does this role get fixed? Well, Eric Rometty comes in mid-season. What a signing he proved to be.
Arguably a little bit better on the ball than Carlos Carmona. And maybe not as hot-headed as Carmona could be at points. I mean, maybe even evident in the first match against Red Bulls in the inaugural season. But Rometty, I mean, he hasn't really been like too heavily booked throughout the season as well. I mean,
sure, a player that plays the way that he plays, that's incredibly important. He's a bulldog-like player who just is going to be physical with you and is going to just give you what you don't want to get in that physicality and that getting bumped off the ball. Not to mention, I think the best part of this game was after a foul was called, not called, he looks Diego Valeri square in the eyes and just does the crying thing. I mean, Eric Rometty has absolutely won my heart. What a player that guy is. And just, again, like everyone else in this game, did exactly the job they were asked to do. And because of that, it made those last few minutes, even though at the time we were nervous, we were in complete control of that game.
It was a different type of mixed feeling of nervousness. I think it was we just don't want to collapse, but we think we have this game. And so that's where it's just Atlanta sports curse is creeping back in the back of our minds. But I think, as the stoppage time winded down, it was just, pandemonium, of course.
Oh, everyone started feeling it. But I think, honestly, one of the biggest words of the night came before that final whistle. And that was when you saw Joseph Martinez getting subbed off for Tito Villalba, who came on and once again dribble tackled through players and almost scored, as he has been doing all playoffs. You get a great reception for him. And then, of course, when Miguel Almiron comes off around the 85th minute for
I think it's on purpose. Yeah.
I mean, you give him that curtain call.
Yeah.
He did that. He made the walk, applauded the fans. It did seem like a goodbye. But, man, just to watch what he's grown into and become and the player that he was that no one had really heard of, but just became our number 10, won our hearts. It was just incredible. And like you said, those last few minutes when everyone looked around and realized, holy crap, this is about to happen, and just counted down the seconds until that referee blew that whistle. And that 25-year wait from the city of Atlanta. 23. My bad. 23, 20-plus year wait.
25 would have been.
That 23-year wait for the city of Atlanta since the 95 Braves came to an end and Atlanta became a city of champions. And, man, that moment was special.
It was, I broke down in tears a little bit. It was just a beautiful, beautiful moment because, in terms of just what it really means to Atlanta, it's something that we've had to deal with a lot of just ribbing from people on social media, in person, Falcons, the Braves, the Hawks. It's just been kind of mediocre to bad for a pretty long time. But the Braves, obviously, they strung a 16-year division winning streak, but only won one. It's something that, I think what it really means for Atlanta is that, it shows that we can break through, we can win things in a very dominant fashion and not have to be squeaky bum the entire time.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, and I've kind of spoken on this on Twitter, on Instagram and things, I'm not from Atlanta. Like many Atlanta United fan, this
There's
club,
a lot of transplants,
this club has given us something to really latch onto, and for me, for a lot of reasons, made Atlanta feel like a home. Moving here 2 years ago, moving to a new city, even though I'm only from South Carolina, it's still a big kind of scary thing. But Atlanta United has given me so much that I honestly never would have expected. And honestly, just thinking about it right now makes me a little bit emotional. And it's just I can never truly understand or appreciate the suffering that this city has gone through with sports and these heartbreaks after heartbreaks, because I'm not a fan of the other teams. I'm not. But to see what it means to these people in the faces, to see these grown men breaking down in tears, just to see and experience everything in the stadium after, even with the weather being terrible outside, and then again today at the parade, everyone just, and we'll get into the parade later, but just seeing what it means to everyone, it's really, really special. And we really have an incredible club that is revolutionizing the way that Americans look at soccer and what soccer can mean to a community. And I think now, especially now with this title, when you talk about the city of Atlanta and what happens in Atlanta, what's important to the culture of Atlanta, if someone came here and had no idea what it was, one of the first things that you would have to talk about would be Atlanta United.
Yes.
And for me, I think that's what's huge. It's so huge and cannot be said enough. It's just what that team has done to this city, and for them to win that trophy in just 2 years with the way that they've played. They've transformed the game. They've transformed the mind of how people look at it. It's just, it's incredible. I really just can't put it into words.
Yeah, and there's that I believe it's Jeremiah Oshan SB Nation article that initially, when the team was announced for Atlanta and MLS, he was slating what a bad sports town Atlanta was, and really questioned pretty on a large scale, would soccer work in Atlanta? And I think, in these 2 short years, it's absolutely a very affirmative yes. Are you crazy? What were you thinking? But I mean, I get the trepidation earlier, but I mean, it's now we are far and away
But I think now, I mean,
MLS.
you got to look at it now. It's like, yeah, we've got that championship, but you also get the vibe from everyone that, we did. But guess what? Now the real work begins because there is firmly a target on Atlanta United's back.
Yeah.
The league wants to come after us. Everyone wants us to fail for sure. Now we were the darlings, but now we've got that win. Now it's like, okay, now will you be typical Atlanta? And if they don't win next year, will the fans stop coming? Now it's our job as fans. We know the front office is going to put the work in. We know the players are going to put the work in. Yes, Tata Martino's moving on, but now it's our time. Now that we've won, to get better, to mature, to get stronger, to back our new manager, whoever it is, and to be this club that says, okay, yeah, one's nice, but we're going to win more. We want 2, we want 3, we want 4. We want to be the record holders. We want to catch the Galaxy.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to be the team.
They have 9.
We want to be
MLS Cups,
the record holders for having the most MLS Cups. I mean, right now, you got DC with 4. I definitely want to catch them.
Yep.
You've got Galaxy that have 5.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to catch them. And I think you see the determination from the front office with the moves they make, how they want this thing run, from the owner. I mean, you got to talk about Arthur Blank. Going back to the very beginning of the game, that dude comes in and smacks home probably one of the best golden spikes of the season.
Absolutely.
Looking like he's 25 years old up there on that stage, ready to do it.
Looking spry.
I mean, looking spry on the stage. I mean, on the capo stand after the game. You see what it means to him. And when you have an owner like that...
Yeah, and he inspired, I think, the performance as well. I think that's what the Golden Spike is supposed to do. It's supposed to really set the tone for the match, and I think the last 2 choices have been just stellar. Big boy, Arthur Blank. I mean, it's he's hit the spike before, and I think we were all speculating who is it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? And when you see, well, you first hear "Welcome to Atlanta," and you think, okay, ludicrous. Well, that makes sense. That's cool. But then you see Arthur Blank pop up, and it's like, it couldn't be more better. It's a great bookend type of feel, and it's just, it was that emotional, like, oh yeah, like, yes, Arthur Blank owns the Falcons as well. Like, yeah, they have to do it. We have to win. Like, and it's one of those things that, I mean, I think. I think we gotta move on. We can
keep waxing lyrical on this all day long. But I think the next thing, Joseph Martinez wins MVP.
Yeah.
But for me, my MVP for the game, my man of the match, also Joseph Martinez. I mean, let's be honest.
It's hard to go against.
Goal and an assist. Big time players make big time plays in big time games, as it was once said about American football. Well, I think you could absolutely take that and translate that to Joseph Martinez. Right. I mean, into the season, it's like, well, he hasn't scored in a while. He's out of form. What's going to happen? Get to the playoffs, 4 goals, gets to the final, goal and an assist. That's exactly what you want from him. Who was ever worried about form? Form is temporary, class is permanent for Joseph Martinez.
And he's shown to be absolute class when he's been in MLS. And I think we've scored 9 goals as a team in the playoffs. Only conceded 1, which is just crazy. And that's really what brought us here, is just our stout defensive. Or 2, I'm sorry. But,
man, only a +7 goal difference.
Yeah, right, exactly.
2 against in 5 matches. Shame.
And Jose Martinez has scored 4 in the playoffs. I mean, it's one of those, the old adage that goals wins games. I mean, it's the hardest thing to do in the game. And he's done it, and he's done nearly half of them, pretty much. And yeah, I mean, that has to make him at least man of the match in this one because of the goal and the assist. But for me, also just man of the playoffs.
Yeah, he's absolutely incredible. For me, if I had to go for a man in the playoffs, though, I'm going to eat and take back every word I have ever said bad about my newly crowned Saint Franco Escobar. That man, I mean, he completely was a player transformed in this playoffs. I mean, every bad thing I ever said about him, especially on the attacking side, he completely flipped the script. He did everything we needed from him, from tracking back to contributing on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, as an attacker, he's a wing back, like you got from Gressel, but he gives you a little bit more, I think, in the air, offset pieces. I mean, and it allows Gressel to move into another position. By Escobar becoming this player, it enabled everything else kind of to move into position as well. So for me, Escobar is just absolutely incredible, but it's so hard to give it to one person, whether it be Joseph or Escobar, because Parkey and LGP, absolute units. Lorinowitz, unit. Rometty, Gressel, and Nagbe,
the
controlling
partnerships,
the midfield.
Yeah, the partnerships in this team were what was so crucial that got us the MLS Cup, because the partnership between LGP and Parkey,
and Lorinowitz.
And Lorinowitz, for sure, coming in, as that 3-man, it's it was just a wall in front of Guzan that was very difficult to penetrate. And then you have the 3-man, midfield combo of Gressel, Nagbe, and Rometty, and it's just, the playmakers can't get past that. And so, and then you have the strike force. You
have your wing backs, both Garza and Escobar contributing down the wings, and like you said, you have the 2 best players in MLS. According to the MVP voting,
which we'll get to
as your attackers going in and creating absolute havoc for teams. And I mean, the credit for all of that and everything you saw from this team has to all get turned around and go right back to the manager, because they were a complete reflection of what Tata Martino wanted, and they did exactly what he wanted. And I am so glad that he got to get that cup win as his last game in charge for Atlanta United.
So deservedly, because we were sputtering a little bit into the playoffs. Yes, the Toronto match I think was definitely the wake-up call, and the fact that we got more pragmatic, the fact that Mark from the fan cams maybe even mentioned, is he playing just a red herring with his tactics and formation, just to kind of prep for a team like Red Bulls. It certainly seemed like it, but because I think though it was that lesson learned, and then he just changed everything up to the perfect T, where we became this cup team, where you have to get hot, you have to be able to play stout defense, and score timely goals and be efficient in front of goal, and that's just exactly what we did.
So basically, for whoever the next manager of Atlanta United is, look at our MLS Cup, and then take that and put it in the CONCACAF Champions League, and let's lift that trophy come May.
Oh, for sure. But I think we'll put that bow on this MLS Cup final, and it's just beautiful days for Atlanta. Yes.
Oh, it feels nice, doesn't it?
Oh,
man, winning a cup is nice. It would be bad if you were a fan of a team that we were rivals with that never made the playoffs. And on that note,
let's get into the news. So Joseph Martinez, he has been announced as the MVP. We didn't get to cover this last week because it was announced on a Thursday. But I think he won with like 40-something% of the vote. And second to him was Miguel Almiron, and that's just it's just
they tried to split the vote, and they did, and we still finished first and second. So what does that say? It says, well done, front office. You hit 2 home runs on 2 absolutely incredible players that had absolutely incredible seasons for Atlanta United.
And Joseph Martinez just had a ridiculous season. But,
let's run through his 2018, shall we?
Exactly. Let's so Golden Boot winner. MLS MVP, MLS Cup MVP for sure, MLS Cup champion, all right, All-Star Game MVP, only person to score in the All-Star Game, and as an MLS player, it's
also don't forget the fact that not only did he win Golden Boot, mind you, didn't he? Oh yeah, he set a new single season record for most goals in a season, and then kept that goal scoring form and set a new record for total goals in a single season, including the playoffs.
With a total of 54, I believe.
54 over 2 years now. I'm thinking he's been a pretty good signing for Atlanta United, and I'm thinking he probably deserves that most valuable player award.
Oh, absolutely. There's people that think that Miguel Almiron might be a good shout for that. Absolutely, he's
he's an incredibly crucial player.
Yeah,
but
forwards and backwards, he's definitely the guy that you count on to create the chances and whatnot. But you gotta have a guy to finish these chances, and it's the hardest thing to do in the sport.
And when you set records like that, and you just look at that, you go, that's probably a pretty fair result.
Indeed. But during the MVP announcement ceremony, he got a little emotional. His grandma and grandpa were in attendance,
The notorious Grandpa.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Lovely dude. It's a guy I want to have a drink with for
Absolutely.
sure.
I wish I spoke Spanish fluently because
yeah,
if I did, I just want to just sit down and just listen to this guy just talk.
And he'd probably mercilessly make fun of us as well. Probably,
but he sounds just like an absolute champion.
But yeah, and so I mean, he's kind of spoke initially in English, and it was very endearing. I mean, he tried, and I think he's better usually than there, but he
definitely made the point of he felt more pressure speaking in English than he did taking a penalty in front of 70,000 plus
right,
fans.
exactly. And it was just a bunch of media in front of him. It's like, yeah, I mean, English is not your first language. It's difficult.
What a guy.
Yeah, and then he finished it off in Spanish and had some really emotional things to say. He said, I have a lot to say. I have a lot of emotions. I'm not someone who cries easily, but when I see my grandmother, sometimes I cry. It was a very heartfelt moment for sure. I mean, and it's one of those things. I mean, he's kind of he likened himself to an onion as well, where he said he's got layers. The person that he's maybe seen as on the outside, he's basically a big softie on the inside.
He definitely is a big softie on the inside. Yeah. You can tell, even though he refuses to show it in his goal celebrations. Yeah. But I actually love his goal celebrations.
Oh, yeah. So much swag.
The best part though of the whole press conference though is the way he ends it.
Yeah.
See you later, alligator. Grabs his award and walks off. What a guy! And then everyone had rumors about, well, what's he going to do? Is he going to stay in Atlanta? And he's like, Atlanta's home. I mean, his Players Tribune article a few weeks back, he loves it here. He's happy here. I think he's definitely happy after seeing, the reception he got at the parade the day after winning.
For sure.
He's at home here. He has said that he wants to stay here as long as he can.
Right.
And I think for us, that's
it's just paying him,
but it's just which he deserves every dollar. And I think Mr. Blank will give him any dollar that he wants because he deserves it.
Yeah, he's on a $1.6 million contract, and there's some guys in the league like maybe Rooney, like players like that.
Altidore.
Zlatan's on TAM actually, so it's not as bad. But yeah, definitely Altidore, Michael Bradley, Jovinko are making ridiculous money. And they ain't doing what Joseph's doing.
Nope. So whatever he wants, just give it to him. Let him stay here because that's good news for us and very, very, very bad news for the rest of Major League Soccer.
Indeed. But I mean, in terms of there's another fantastic stat that Joseph Martinez is in very fine company for. There's 5 players to win the regular season and MLS Cup MVP awards in the same season. Tony Meola of the Kansas City Wizards, Carlos Ruiz of the LA Galaxy, Guillermo Barros Schelotto, a little interesting guy
on him later.
Of the Columbus Crew, Robbie Keane of the LA Galaxy, and Joseph Martinez. I mean, it's just legendary stuff, really.
And he joins Carlos Ruiz as the only player in Major League Soccer history to win an MLS Cup, win MLS Cup MVP, score an MLS Cup, be the MVP of the league, and win the Golden Boot by leading the league in goals.
Yeah.
That is some very fine company indeed.
Rarefied, for sure.
Joseph Martinez, give yourself a bow and a round of applause.
We're just
2018.
We're not worthy, guys.
We're not worthy. Absolute legend.
Yeah, and keep it up because we have other trophies to win and, other trophies
I'd like to see him get in the habit of lifting more and more trophies.
Absolutely, yeah, because that photo...
it never gets old.
Yeah, when he had 5 trophies in front of him...
And he said, the king is finally happy.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm an unabashed Manchester United fan. There's only really one player that I can remember being called the king, and that was Eric Cantona. And honestly, it's kind of crazy. They play a little bit different games. But Joseph Martinez has a lot of Eric Cantona about how he kind of, especially his confidence, the celebrations of just being like, yeah, I'm the one.
Yep.
If there had to be a king of Atlanta right now, I mean, obviously, we're not getting into music, obviously, but sporting-wise, if there was undisputed king, I'm fine with that. We can take that with whatever we want and make stuff with that, but he's the king. Absolutely. Bow down to you, Joseph Martinez.
Yes, incredible season. But that gets us to the end of the season moves for the team. The roster shakes out a little bit like this. I won't get into all of it. You'll see on the screen. But we basically kind of let go some guys that maybe won't be surprising, but there is one big name that is pretty surprising. But we'll get to him in a second. But Mitch Hildebrandt Sal Zizzo, Oliver Shannon, and Andrew Wheeler-Aminu had their options declined. But the big one is Michael Parkhurst, who, yeah, I mean, he's the captain. I'm sure some of you guys are perplexed, like, how could we just leave him and hang him out to dry after an MLS Cup win? I mean, I get it, but it's one of those. They did come out and say that they are negotiating with Michael Parkhurst afterwards. Probably just something that's a little bit better terms for everybody, and maybe something to target our next thing, which is the expansion draft that they're probably trying to keep them away
figure out
from.
their way of how to get things around. Last year, obviously, we saw the whole LAFC draft pick trade, don't touch the Renowitz type thing.
Right.
I mean, mind you, the expansion draft is only 5 rounds. You can only pick one player from a team, so we'll definitely get into more of that in a second. But I think with the roster moves, they're not really shocking. I think for me, one player that I wouldn't have mind seeing stick around is definitely Andrew Wheeler-Aminu. He
Such
didn't play
utility,
a lot, but when he did, I thought he played consistently well for the team, playing, as you said, utility man wherever you needed him. Minnesota, the game in Minnesota particularly springs to mind when he played very well there.
They had to come in literally in the cold.
Yeah, and he put in a shift to help Atlanta United secure 3 points there. And I feel his family is just fantastic, but it's part of the business. It's just one of those business things, and I wish him luck moving forward. He absolutely deserves a chance with another Major League Soccer side. Whoever picks him up, I think they'll get a lot from him. I think he's a player that, if he could play more, could develop maybe a little bit more into a solid MLS player. But you just look at the players in front of him and you just go, yeah, well, it was difficult. So, but that's just one of the sides of the sport that you're gonna have to swallow.
Right, and a player like Mitch Hildebrandt, he didn't really see a whole lot of playing time, and I mean, it's a guy that at FC Cincinnati, he was this great shot stopper. It looked like, at least in the highlights, we didn't really ever get to see that. So, it's one of those.
When you have a guy like Brad Guzan, though, again, keeper's a position that you don't really have to rotate. Yeah. And when you got a guy like Big Brad between the sticks, well...
And Alec Can, right behind
backup.
him. Yeah, exactly. It's difficult, but... what has happened though is, in the expansion draft, we have to choose 11 players, and Atlanta United have pretty much announced who they have exposed and protected.
What's good, all my fellow five stripers out there? I hope you're still feeling like a champion, rowdy and proud from the parade in Atlanta. We just hoisted the cup. It's amazing. Put a star on my kit. Silly season has begun. Today was the MLS Expansion Draft. FC Cincinnati, coming into the league next season, had the opportunity to take 5 new players from every single one of the clubs in MLS. Every club had the opportunity to protect or not protect a player. And some big names on Atlanta United were available. They opted not to take any during the draft, but it looks like we've traded away Greg Garza. I'm not happy about this. But it was a big boatload of money, and $450,000 in GAM and TAM, general allocation money and targeted allocation money, the opportunity to possibly buy down a DP, offer maybe a new contract to somebody like a Tito Villalba or a Julian Gressel. It also clears the way for 16-year-old mega player George Bello to step directly into the starting lineup, and also deputize Mikey Ambrose for Champions League games, US Open Cup games, the occasional spot start. It's always going to hurt to lose somebody from this team. The 17s, the first Atlanta United 1.0, all of our Warriors that we've lost. It hurts. It's going to hurt to lose anybody that won, a championship here, especially just a couple days after it happened. But, like I said, it clears the path for a George Bello, and we'll see where we go. I fully trust Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra. I hope you feel the same. Like I said, silly season has begun. We're going to be making moves. There's all kinds of moves. Will we bring back Michael Parkhurst? That's a huge contract question. This is your boy at Devin for Real, at DEVON, the number 4, Real. AJ and Tanner, I'm going to send it back over to you.
Next piece of news is that Tata Martino becomes the very first South American head coach to win the MLS Cup. And that's pretty remarkable, actually.
When you think about how long the league's been around. Well, this game was going to get that regardless whether it was Atlanta or Portland that won.
Yep.
Obviously, we're glad the good guys won.
Absolutely.
And to send Tata out that way, I mean, that's just another piece of history for him, for a manager that already has a glowing CV and has done so many great things in football. I mean,
and to send him out this way as well, I mean, this was the last match for Tata Martino. And unfortunately, yes, now he is moving on to, the rumored Mexico or wherever he's going. But I mean, we just wish him well because he's in that territory, I feel like, of earning a statue or
There's
at least
plenty
a
of
banner.
space around Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Or I don't know. I mean, maybe another thing that I don't know if we'll ever do, just maybe for soccer purposes, like renaming sides of the stadium.
Yep.
You know, have like a Tata Martino, like make
Stand,
the supporter section, not the supporter section, but the Tata Martino stand. That would be really
Except
cool.
it's not a stand, I guess. So it's a section.
It's more of a section, but you know what I mean? Just something like that. I would absolutely love to see him back for a golden spike for a big game, whether it be like a CONCACAF Champions League final or an MLS Cup final or something like that. If you brought Tata Martino back to hit the golden spike, that'd be like, oh yeah, we know what's going on here. I mean, yeah, a statue, something. He's done so much for this team, and wherever he goes, whether it's Mexico, whether it's, like you said, wherever, he will always have a place in our hearts, and he will always have a home and be welcome in the city of Atlanta. And yeah, there's nothing else good you can say about him.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few things. I mean, he has established greatness in this club from the very get-go. I mean, he put us kind of on the map to a degree because, you know...
his hiring was so out of the blue.
Exactly.
He contacted the club. I mean...
And it's one of those things where, you know, he's such a world-renowned manager. People really open their eyes if they hear, wow, you know, the former coach of, you know, Argentina, the former Barcelona coach. I mean, yeah, he's going to an MLS club, and, you know, what's he going to do there? Like, you know, he must be washed up. He must be out of his mind. And
well, what he did was exactly what, you know, both Arthur Blank and Darren Eales have said over and over again. He bought into a vision, and then he brought that vision to life. And he has set the foundation for what this club wants to become in the future. He has created the history that this club is going to base its future success on, its style of play, what it means to the community. That's Tata Martino, and you could see it today at the parade when he hits the golden spike and when he lifts the trophy. You know, you can see what it means to him, and yeah, I mean, for me, just Tata Martino, what a guy!
Yeah, what a guy! What a legend, and just super grateful that he chose us. And I mean, we have just a beautiful trophy to show for it, for sure.
And I think that kind of takes us nicely on to our next bit of news, which is a player that came to Atlanta United because of Tata Martino, and that's Miguel Almiron.
Yeah, Miguel Almiron. You know, he's somebody that you know, it was you know, Tata told him that, yeah, I want you to come with me to Atlanta. I have a project that you know, I really feel like you'd be a big part of, and absolutely he was. This very well could be Miguel Almiron's last match, and by all means it probably should be because of another rumor. But yeah, I mean, he's just a guy that just left everything out on the field when he was playing for us. Just, you know, MVP-like numbers in both seasons. He was definitely in the shout for both seasons as well. I mean, a guy that you know, you could tell just loves playing football. And you know, that smile is infectious. Just the smiling assassin. He would just, you know, kill teams and have a smile on his face doing it. And I mean, I'm also just not. I can't come to terms that we're going to lose him, but I think we all have to come to terms that it's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still don't know where he's going to go. Obviously, the rumor mill has been consistently swirling around him for a very long time.
Newcastle,
period of
West
time now.
Ham,
Wherever it is, you know, he's going. You know, if he does leave, we will find out in the coming weeks. That being said, he did say after the game that he does expect to begin preseason training with Atlanta United in January. That will be before the winter transfer window closes in Europe. Whether he starts preseason training or not with the club, I firmly expect that he will not be at the club come that first CONCACAF Champions League game in Costa Rica. I think he will have found his way to Europe. That being said, if for some reason he is still at the club, whoever the manager is going to have a lot of options, but a very big job on his hands, keeping a lot of players happy.
Right, for sure. But him being in the preseason, I mean, it's yeah. I think it might be politicking a little bit. Him saying that. I mean, trying to keep the fans a little happy and
I don't think. I mean, even if he said I'm leaving, I think everyone would be like, "That's fine. We love you. Do what you want to do. We're going to support for you regardless." He's in that kind of territory right now, and as a player, it's really tough to get to the hearts of people where you're saying I'm leaving, and the people are like, "That's fine. We love you."
And in 2 short years, nonetheless, where it's a kind of a roller coaster, but it's man, if it is the end of days with Miguel Miron, I mean, it's been a very beautiful ride. But getting into a bit of kind of harsh, sad news.
To go from a high to a bit of a confusing low.
For sure, it was very much noticed by a lot of people that Andrew Carlton was not within the celebrations with the team, especially at the MLS Cup final and with the team at the parade. I mean, and so essentially, there was a team spokesperson that said that because of a violation of just team rules and indiscipline, that he was suspended for the MLS Cup final and subsequently the celebrations, which man, it just feels very harsh for the kid. The speculation on the internet is that he was partying the night before the MLS Cup final. He posted some stuff on Snapchat, and Tata Martino just didn't like that. He just suspends him on the spot for that. And I mean, with the Barco stuff earlier in the year, and I mean, Tata Martino is a disciplined man.
He's
I guess.
No nonsense type of guy. I mean, he had laid the precedent kind of down for what was going to happen if off the field you weren't focused. And obviously we still don't know the full story yet, and the news is still coming in. So anything that we say is based on the reports that we have seen, and we've had some quality reporters like Grant Wall reporting on this,
and Jeff Carlisle.
ESPN, So you see these guys talking about it, so you kind of want to believe it because these are reputable guys, but we still fully don't know. But if you're out doing what he is allegedly have done, partying the night before a cup final, whether you're in the squad or not, you need to be with your teammates, you need to be focused, and putting that on social media cannot be a great idea.
Right.
I don't know what the future holds for Andrew Carlton. Many are speculating if he will stay and remain with the club. He's a local guy. He's shown his talent and the potential he has. I hope that he should get another chance. I think he should get another chance to prove his worth. And hopefully, maybe this is a lesson, as harsh as it may be, that can help him turn into the player that he has the ability to become. You want to see him succeed again because he is that local kind of guy. But
exactly, and that's the harsh part, is that it's his hometown club, and he's not suffered the 23 years, obviously, because he's not old enough, but he has seen the little bit of futility, and there is that aspect of it would have been great for him to celebrate that with the rest of the boys. And it just seems a little harsh, but I mean, you understand, like, whatever he did, I mean, it must have been harsh enough to warrant this consequence. And you just feel for the kid, because I mean, maybe it makes him hungrier for when he actually gets his chance and he's the main cog in the team, and kind of barrels his team into a championship run. And getting into a little bit quick hits of news, the MLS Cup final on Fox drew the highest rating since '98. It was up 71% compared to last year's final. Ridiculous stuff. That was from Ian Thomas on Twitter. And the overnight ratings for the Fox Sports coverage of the MLS Cup, the top 10 markets, 11.5 for Atlanta, Portland 7.3, Milwaukee 2.2. I mean, interesting stuff. We'll show this list, and I mean, it's interesting people who are or cities that are watching this.
It just means that people were tuning in to watch the Five Stripes play, and not only were they tuning in, but they were showing up as 73,019 fans poured into Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and you guessed it, set a record for attendance for the MLS Cup final. Just another record as far as fans are concerned for Atlanta United. So fans, give yourself a pat on the back for showing up, being loud, being rowdy, and being proud. That was one hell of an atmosphere for that game on Saturday night. And honestly, I don't know if really too many teams in Major League Soccer could have come into that building with that backing for the five stripes and pulled a result out.
Because the Timbers were definitely complaining. Attinella was complaining how loud it was and that he couldn't hear himself think and he couldn't talk to his teammates. He even advocated that it should be going back to a neutral location. Wow, that just speaks volumes.
I definitely, I mean, I think neutral locations are probably more fair, especially as far as Atlanta United are concerned.
Probably.
But who am I to care? Because I love that.
Yeah,
and
we can keep it going if we're playing
as far as TV is concerned, wouldn't you want it there? Because it makes everything look a lot better.
Oh, for sure.
We look pretty good. We look pretty good. So good job, guys.
Well.
Give yourself a pat on the back for everything. You guys have been great. The players have mentioned that as well, how important the fans are. And you can see what it meant to them in the post-game celebrations, how much it meant to them to win it for the fans. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Ain't too bad. But, so with that, with winning MLS Cup, Atlanta, they are getting into the Campeones Cup. And that pretty much is the second edition of this competition, and it pits the champions of MLS Soccer, or MLS rather, and Mexico's Campeón de Campeones. And it will be hosted by us on August 14th of 2019.
It's a trophy. Maybe it's only 2 years old. We're only 2 years old.
Yeah.
I'd like to win it.
Yeah, let's win some trophies.
Let's win some trophies. And beating a team from Mexico, that makes us look pretty good too. So let's put that in the cabinet as well, shall we?
Plural is good. I like trophies, you know. But so let's get into the rumors of this past week and the big
there's
one.
only one. There's only one really to start with on this one.
For sure. And it's
There was a pretty big game this weekend outside of Major League Soccer, and that was the Copa Libertadores final was finally played. There are two very interesting names associated with Atlanta United from that game.
First one,
Pity Martinez scoring the cup-clinching goal at the end of that game for River Plate. He had some very, very interesting things to say after the game.
And also, I mean, he got the MVP in that competition as well. And so, I mean, it's he's just
basically he's the
player.
best player in South America right now.
Yeah.
And according to him, he might be coming to a city near you.
Yeah, exactly. So he confirms to TYC Sports in Argentina that right after the match, he says, "Yeah, I'm no longer going to be playing with River Plate, and he'll be playing the rest of the year essentially with the Club World Cup. But essentially, he'll be joining Atlanta United." In January, and that's what he said. And
I think
very
what he said specifically, when you get into his quote, he said, "It's the club that trusted me. European teams did not trust their moment. I thought a lot with my family, with my representative. It's a league that grew a lot, and we hope to continue making history in that club." I mean, obviously the club itself haven't announced it yet from Atlanta United, but to hear a player saying that the club believes in him, a club, mind you, that now currently does not have a manager, and he is still willing to come here
and publicly
saying that after winning the biggest trophy of his life. I mean, that says something. It shows that he has a desire to come here. And, LGP has spoken about how he thinks he'll fit right in Atlanta United.
He even added him on the IG story where he was watching the final and he was rooting for River Plate. Obviously, he's a former River Plate player. And so funny stuff there. He's definitely rooting for Pity Martinez to come to Atlanta United. But it did come out afterwards that Darren Eales, I mean, I think it's lip service essentially. He's saying, he said, quote, "I saw that people keep talking about this Pity Martinez," and he mentioned it himself. "We've certainly got some irons in the fire, and we are always looking to improve the squad. When there's something official, we will announce it."
Coy as always,
yes.
Darren Eagles.
But I don't think it's an Eagles rumor this time. I think it probably will happen. It's just a matter of there is that Miguel Miron player that's still with us and the 3 DPs. It's difficult to kind of roster maneuver this at the moment. So,
but I mean, still technically speaking, the transfer window isn't even open.
Yes.
So I think you'll see all of these things formally taken care of and wrapped up in January. And I think obviously by that time you'll have a new manager, which funny enough brings us on to the losing side of that Copa Libertadores final. and a certain manager for Boca Juniors.
Right, GBS, Guillermo Barros Schelotto of Boca Juniors, he pretty much said after the match that he would not be returning to Boca Juniors. He has had a pretty successful run there, but I mean, I think, you know, he made up his mind up before this final, and, you know, he lost it, obviously, but the intense pressure from the Boca Juniors fans, it's very difficult to
It's
manage
probably
there.
the toughest job in this hemisphere is managing Boca Juniors, because they have an expectation, they have a rival, but they believe firmly that they should win every single game they ever play. And Argentinian fans are insane. If you haven't seen footage from the River fans celebrating in Buenos Aires after that final whistle goes in Madrid, do yourself a favor and look it up. Go on Copa 90. They've got some really great video. In fact, they've got a great video with Ellie Mingham called Derby Days that if you don't know anything about South American football, watch the video they did on the Copa Libertadores final, and you'll understand that is the most intense, I think, that this sport can get. But I mean,
it's known as the rivalry.
It's known as the rivalry. It's probably the biggest derby in world football.
Yeah.
And those are the two probably biggest jobs or clubs, in a sense, in this hemisphere. And you're talking about the best player for the winning team moving to Atlanta United, and potentially the coach for the losing team, which isn't even a bad thing when you think of the competition we're talking about.
At least being considered.
Considered for Atlanta United. Atlanta United are going to the biggest clubs in this hemisphere and saying, we like what you have there. Would be a shame if someone took them to Major League Soccer. I mean, if that doesn't tell you what the intention and the desire of this club is on the back of winning a championship, I mean, I don't know what else you need to see. That their desire is to win and to keep winning every single year going into the future.
Right. And so, obviously, they haven't interviewed with GBS yet because, I mean, he's busy, you know, coaching a final, and well, with that, I mean, he's finally done with his service to the club, and now we'll see if he is indeed the choice or if he's not. But another guy that has been considered is Jorge Sampaoli, and you know, it's a guy that was reportedly interviewed on Sunday, and we'll see how it actually went or not. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's a situation that you know, it's all developing. These are guys that they're all looking at, and I think they're all divisive choices. Obviously, I mean, every one of those guys has some good things and bad things about him. GBS maybe not the most tactically sound, but probably a good player manager, where he has a good relationship with his players at hand. Jorge Sampaoli, probably the opposite, I think.
Yeah, I think he's much more of a tactician, disciplinarian. You know, the whole, you know, someone, you know, acting like someone with their hair on fire, even though he has none. That's the kind of guy you get with Jorge Sampaoli.
Right.
Obviously, his most recent jobs haven't. Well, Sevilla went okay, but we all kind of know what happened with Argentina this past season, or this past World Cup. You know, we'll find out. I'm firmly of the belief that the front office will make the best choice possible for this appointment. You know, they haven't done anything to make me question them so far. They've shown they're going to do their due diligence, and for me, it's just, and I think for everyone else, regardless of who the appointment is and what we think of them, it's our job to get behind them, to back them, to be the fans that we've been for Tata Martino, and to get behind this team for whoever it is and whoever's pulling on that shirt next season. And that's something that, you know, this is the first time we're going to have that and embrace that change. And that's what we have to do, is embrace that change. It's going to be a part of it, a part of this club's journey. As time goes on, we'll have to keep doing this, but you know, you can't complain too much when you have a president like Darren Eales, a technical director like Carlos Bocanegra, and especially an owner like Arthur Blank, who demands excellence and demands success. And I think that's what we're going to keep looking on getting.
Those celebrations after the match were just absolute.
There's just so many great moments from it. I mean, just so many little individual interactions, experiences, things that it's amazing.
Yeah, it was something that, you know, you're intently watching while you're there, but also it came about on social media afterwards.
You can't catch all of it, you know.
Yeah, it's difficult because you're there trying to celebrate with your you know, family, friends, you know, just anybody around you, and you know, try to soak everything all in. But if you missed any of these, I mean, this is why we're here. We're gonna, show you the best of the celebrations and the parade afterwards as well. But I think the first one that stuck out to me was Uncle Arthur when he was on the trophy stand, and you have Michael Parkhurst raising up the trophy, and he just right in front of them is like conducting the orchestra or the team. I mean, it's just Uncle Arthur is like just
he's the owner you want to have. He's the owner that other people
just see the passion.
Are jealous that you have because they want someone who's that invested in it. And when you just hear Arthur Blank speak about the team and what it means and how much what he cares about is the joy that this team brings to the community. I mean, what more do you want from an owner? I mean, he's a billionaire who owns 2 sports teams, and his primary thing is bringing happiness to other people.
Right. He's as good of a person as a billionaire can be, I feel like.
And what the reason he created Atlanta United has been fulfilled, and he wants to keep doing it. I mean, at the ceremony, whatever you want to call it, for the parade today, he made it very clear he doesn't want just one. He wants to keep winning trophies, and he wants to bring on more. Mm-hmm. And I mean, again, what else can you say about the guy, top to bottom? Just absolute unit. Mm-hmm. I think one thing, though, for me that was very interesting that happened kind of before the whole cup raising part was when the team came onto the stage, they already had their medals.
Yeah.
And I found that kind of weird for me because it's always that I kind of wanted to see is
the reaction.
Is the reaction of Don Galbraith like being on the stand and the players individually walking up there and him putting the medal on their heads and then presenting the trophy.
Exactly.
That's something that I wish we could have seen because it's that moment of having that medal put over their head and then that lifting of the trophy as a moment.
Especially a guy like Michael Parkhurst who on his 5th time of trying finally wins the MLS Cup. I mean, that's just, I'm sure the emotions were overcome at that point. I mean, and you could tell and you could see a lot of the emotion come out after they had won. A lot of the guys had a little bit of some teary eyes because they knew what it means not just for them, but what it means to everybody watching and just anybody part of it. But I mean, it's just and the great part is Gressel. When he gets the trophy, he lifts it up and then he rushes right directly towards the supporter section and raises it up for the fans and just big raucous cheers all around.
One of the things I noticed when I watched the game back and I'm watching the trophy celebration is right before he does that, I think it's like a Tito Bijal when some of the other players start pointing at the supporter section like, hey, we need to take this over to them.
Absolutely.
I think one of the funniest things though that happened even before Julian Gressel runs off is LGP running and doing some sort of like flip, spin, perfect slide. He was really smooth rolling onto the stage, just like rolling into. You had a great gif of it. Just
stuck the landing, but then it was
kind of
the
slips
move
it and then
after,
keeps it, holds it firm. It was it's a great gif.
It was
it's
like
out there.
It was like a wrestling into the ring slide.
Yeah, exactly. If you think of WWE, someone running down the ramp and sliding into the ring, it reminds of that. It's on our social media platforms. If you haven't seen it, it's a great gif. Funny stuff from a funny guy.
Yeah, I mean he's a guy that all the celebrations he's in there just there's just something funny that he's doing all over it. So it's just I think he's a person to focus on when if we do win any more trophies. But in the locker room afterwards there was a well-deserved champagne bath for Uncle Arthur, and he's just a cute elderly man. I feel like when
he's just taking it there. He had that, and then you had the little like 2-second Twitter video that they put out where he has a little newspaper and he's just like woo, and he just makes this funny noise, and I'm like, what is this noise coming from him? And then that turns right around into him in the locker room, just like
and just spraying all the champagne
all over it. And I mean, you can see how much the players love him as well, and for the players to love the owner, that it is everything just makes these players feel at home. And guys, something else Atlanta have been waiting 23 years for happened today on Monday, and that was a championship parade. or really what became more of a supporters march than a parade.
Yeah.
It was absolute scenes today.
Yeah, I mean, people started rushing into the actual parade itself, and it just, it morphed into something that I think we're all accustomed to. We're all used to just really taking over the streets and, just chanting, shouting, just doing everything that we do at an Atlanta United match. And
I just love how the fact that as the bus moved along the route, everyone that it passed eventually, came in behind it, and it was almost, we were talking about it, Walking Dead-esque, of just this horde of people around the bus just following it, throwing stuff to the players, whether it was things that were getting autographed, or whether it was in some players' cases booze they were asking for.
Jeff Lorenowitz. He had a sign that said "Throw booze," just written on this little cardboard piece of paper or a cardboard, box thing, and it is something that's kind of almost out of character for Jeff Lorenowitz, because
he was having a great time
for sure.
He was very letting loose and laying back and having a great
you can see in this video, that he gets thrown a Rowdy and Proud beer, and he and McCann, the two gingers, they chug it. And really just out of character, but really funny stuff that it's atypical.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, the crowds that were surrounding the street, the bus got blocked for a little while. They had to move the people to get it there. I mean, it was just great scenes, and this is all
for soccer in Atlanta.
Or soccer in Atlanta in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, it was this.
It's a great representation.
Celebration, though, of everything. Everyone in the street singing, the players singing from the bus, having a great time, throwing things. I mean, in some players' cases, Tito Villalba getting a drum.
Yeah, from La Dulce, the L. He started
banging on that.
He's on
beat. Yeah, he's on beat. Yeah. I mean, singing stopping everyone crouching down and doing the sha-la-la-la and jumping and going wild. I mean, I was feeling the road was shaking in front of the Georgia World Congress Center. I don't know.
I legitimately felt worried.
Yeah, I don't know if it experienced something like that ever before.
Because it's parking garages underneath, and so it's probably not the most solid.
Well, you know what? We did it anyway. It was incredible. And then, you have all of that, and it leads into this incredible ceremony held in the Home Depot backyard. Wow, that really became very useful right there.
Yeah.
And it was just some great speeches from some great people, even though the rain started coming down just like on Saturday. But I mean, it was just such a celebration, positive vibe from everywhere. And it was just, kind of like Joseph Martinez said, Atlanta means family. And I think this team has helped make Atlanta one big family, and has brought everyone together, and you saw that from everyone and everything they had.
From Keisha Bottoms to Nathan Deal to Uncle Arthur saying, we want many more trophies, and to a person that my favorite mic drop of the entire afternoon, it was Darren Eales.
Of course it was.
Yeah, leaving it off with something from an Outcast legend, Andre 3000, at the awards. I believe it was the Source Awards, in the 90s, and he pretty much said, "The South's got something to say, and that's all I got to say." He couldn't drop the mic at that point because it was, kind of connected to a podium. But pretty much I imagined him dropping it, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment, because yes, absolutely, Atlanta has spoken, and we have won MLS Cup. Feels so good to say that.
It feels really, really, really good. Yeah. And guys, we know you've been listening to just bang on, so we're going to start bringing this thing to a close. But for me and him, we've been telling you how it went for us when that game ended. But that's going to take us into our question of the day. And for me, it's a pretty simple, straightforward question. We want to really hear from you guys. What was the first thing you did when that final whistle sounded and the championship drought came to an end, and whatever curses Atlanta sports had were exercised and killed? What was that first thing you did when you finally got to experience that moment? Get down in the comments below. Let us know what you had to experience, what you guys think, and we really look forward to reading them and sharing those experiences with you guys.
So guys, that's it for us today. It has just been beautiful, at your service, talking about Atlanta United for the entire season in this cup winning run.
It certainly makes a video easier when all you get to do is talk about your team winning the championship.
Yeah.
Thank you, Atlanta United. Thank you to the players. Thank you to the front office. Thank you to Uncle Arthur. Thank you to the fans for coming out consistently, showing Atlanta, showing the nation, showing the world what Atlanta United means to this city and what it can mean and what soccer can mean to this country. Guys, your wait's over. Your watch is over. You've got a championship. Atlanta United are 2018 MLS Cup champions.
What was that again?
2018 MLS Cup champions.
Yes.
Let's get that star over the crest.
Indeed, I can't wait. But from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you guys so much for your support. We have so much more content to come. So remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button. Share this video because it really does help us a lot. And for Tanner McLeod, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.
MLS Cup champions,
yes.
come on, son!
Yes.